My name's Elizabeth, and my brother and I were appointed substitute decision makers by my dad. He'd done his advanced care directive a couple of years before he died, and we got the Guernsey with the support of our other siblings to do that. I think it was incredibly helpful that Dad had an advanced care directive and that we were able to act as his substitute decision makers in that last period. The key bit is that we knew what he wanted and that we were able to advocate for that. He was in the Second World War and he had a quite major wound, and so spent like a year in hospital. And apart from that, had been remarkably well. So it wasn't until very close to his death that he needed real assistance. He'd gone into hospital with a sort of gout, is what we thought it was, some sort of weird thing going wrong with his foot. It was a country hospital. They didn't have any regular medical staff, so they were having locum staff coming in. It was not the ideal situation, and working out what actually was the matter was difficult. And in the meantime, he was obviously deteriorating. He was getting much weaker and less mobile. As time went by, he was less engaged. You know, he was detaching in a way. He was kind of handing over the reins in a sense. And one of the key things about that was that he really did want to go home. And one of the things that he'd said in his advanced care directive was that he wanted to die at home. And as it became clearer that there wasn't going to be any real improvement and that there wasn't anything more to be done, he didn't want anything more to be done, then we began the discussions of, well, how can we get him home? It so took the pressure off of us because we knew what he wanted. In most aspects of advanced care directives aren't legally binding, but actually knowing what the person wants, it makes it so much easier to think, well, we're going to do our best to give him a really good send-off. If he's going to go, we want to make it as good as possible. And we've got his ideas about what would that be for him. If we hadn't had an advanced care directive, then we would have been much more in the dark as to what was the best move. I would have felt a lot more pressure to do a lot more active advocacy, and I would have felt a lot more pressure to negotiate in potentially difficult circumstances with my siblings, who were fantastic, but it's partly because Dad said what he wanted. And if Dad hadn't said what he wanted, I may have had to persuade them about what he wanted, and that would have been harder for sure. So having something that had been written up when he wasn't really unwell, he'd done it, in his own words, really, really helped. Probably the most important thing, it's a precious opportunity. It's an amazing honour, really, to be trusted with that role. And I'm so glad and grateful that we had the chance to do it for him. He really made it easier by having the advanced care directive, and I hope that we could make it easier for him in his last days to have as easy and secure and peaceful a time as possible.